everyone, it's Sarah and welcome to my crochet channel. Today's video I'm going to be showing you how to crochet this soft and squishy dog poof. Now that measures 24 inches across, but I'll be explaining to you how to make it bigger for even bigger dogs. Now this is a great pattern and you don't have to use it for a dog poof. Your kitties will probably like it too, as well as your kids, or you can just make it as a cushion for your couch or your bed. Now this is a free crochet pattern on my blog, and you can find that blog link down in the notes underneath this video. To make a poof like I made, you're going to need 2 of the skeins of the Bernat Blanket Pet blanket yarn. This is a chunky number 5. Now, if you don't want to use this particular type of yarn, you can use any number 5 bulky or chunky number 5 yarns. You can even use a chunky number 6. Just keep in mind that it's going to be just a little bit bigger. And then a third alternative is that you can use 2 strands of worsted weight yarns held together. And again, if you use those 2 strands of worsted weight number 4 held together, it's going to be just a little bit bigger as well. So those are some options for some yarn. Now I'm using this purple and pink today, and I wanted to show you the reason that this is called Blanket Pet yarn. And that's because it has what's called Everfresh applied to the yarn. It's a natural odor control. It will help it not get stinky as quickly, and it's totally chemical free. It's not harmful to pets or people, and it's called Everfresh probiotic technology. And if you want to know exactly what that is, you can look that up online, and it's very interesting, and it works perfect for anything that you're going to make for a pet and also for the kiddos. It's very soft, and I also love that it is a number 5. We're going to be stitching today with our K-hook. Our K-hook is a 6.50 millimeter crochet hook. You're going to need your scissors, and you're going to need a needle. And then you're going to need something to stuff your poof. Let's talk stuffing for just a minute. I'm going to be stuffing my poof with just your regular polyfiber fill stuffing, and you're going to need about 16 ounces to stuff your poof. Now, some other things that you can stuff inside your poof is you can use some old blankets, old towels, t-shirts, sweaters that you have around. Just make sure you put them through the laundry and make sure they're nice and clean before you stuff them in your poof. And it is a good idea to put a blanket, maybe an older blanket, down in the bottom just to give it some weight as well, and that works great also. Other things that you can use are your leftover pillows. Maybe you want to refurbish them and not throw them away. You can open them up, and one thing that I do if I'm going to reuse a pillow is I open it up, I take the stuffing out, and I set it out in the sun for a few hours to kill off any bacteria that might be in it. And so there are lots of options that you can use for stuffing your poof. The first poof that I made for the test pattern was blue and dark blue, light and dark, front and back. On the one we're going to do today for our demonstration is we're going to do 2 rows of lavender, 2 rows of pink, working back and forth just for a fun striping effect. You can do it all in one color, you can do it in 2 colors, you can do whatever you want for your pet poof. We're going to begin with a slip knot. We're going to chain 5. We're going to bring the tail of our yarn over our hook and pull it through that loop so we can form a circle. We'll make that stay knot. And now we have our chain 5 loop or chain 5 circle. All right, so we're going to put our hook through, pull up a loop, and chain 3. And this poof is all stitched in double crochet stitches. So our chain 3 counts as our first double crochet, and we're going to stitch 10 more double crochets in this chain 5 loop. And you'll notice that I'm stitching over this tail of yarn as I stitch my 10 double crochets, and that's so I can use that tail of yarn to pull gently and make sure the center of my poof is closed. All right. My chain 3 counts as my first. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 7, 8, 9, and 10. All right, let's make sure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, we're going to join to the top of our chain 3 with a slip stitch and chain 3. Now, before we go any farther, we're going to turn this over, and we're just going to gently pull on that string, and you'll see that closes up that hole, and we can weave that in later. So there's our row 1 for our poof. All right, let's do row 2. We're going to place a double crochet in the same stitch as our chain 3, and our chain 3 counts as 1 double crochet here. And then we're going to stitch 2 double crochets in each of the double crochets around. And one thing to remember when working with this blanket yarn, I have found that you want to loosen up your tension just a little bit because it doesn't really have much stretch. The stretchiness comes into play by the stitches that we make going around. The yarn itself doesn't really have much stretch. It is very soft and very comfortable, and it's a little bit thicker as far as the amount of fuzziness than some of the other blanket yarns that I have used. And I think that's another thing that makes it really good for a poof that's going to be used quite often. All right, so I'm going to continue around stitching 2 double crochets in each of the double crochets around, and then I'll join back to my chain 3. I've stitched those 2 double crochets in each stitch around. I'm going to join to the top of my chain 3. And sometimes this yarn you're going to have to really find your stitch, so take your time because of the fuzziness, of course. And for row 3, I'm going to be changing colors. You don't have to. I just want to show you how to do it if you want to. I'm bringing in my new color after I did my join. I'm going to leave my purple yarn still attached, and I'm going to bring in my pink and chain 3. When changing colors, you want to make sure that you do your chain 3 after your color change, or you'll end up with 1 stitch in the previous color because your chain 3 counts as your first stitch of the next row. All right, now we're going to leave the purple attached, and we'll be leaving the pink attached when we move back and forth, and we'll carry our yarn or trail our yarn up the back of our work. And I'll show you that as we go along. Alright, so we're going to place a double crochet in the same stitch as our chain 3. Then we'll stitch 1 double crochet in the next stitch. And our repeat for row 3 will be 2 double crochets in the next stitch, and 1 double crochet in the next. Two double crochets in the next, and 1 double crochet in the next. So basically what we're doing is we're doing 2, 1, 2, 1 all the way around. 2 double crochets in the next stitch, and 1 double crochet in the next. And we'll repeat that all the way around for row 3. Here's my third row. Your row 3 should have 30 double crochets. We went from 10 to 20 to 30. We're going to join to the top of our chain 3. And because we're not changing colors, we're going to go ahead and chain 3. Alright, now for row 4, it's going to be similar to row 3. We're going to double crochet in the same stitch as our chain 3, because remember, our chain 3 always counts as our first double crochet on every row of our poof. Then we're going to place 1 double crochet in the next 2 double crochets. Then in the next stitch, we're going to place 2 double crochets in the same stitch. And this is the way that the repeat will do for row 4. 1 double crochet in the next 2 stitches, and then 2 double crochets in the next stitch. Get some more yarn out here. Alright, so there's our repeat. 1 double crochet in the next 2 stitches, and then 2 double crochets in the next stitch. And we will repeat this all the way around for row 4. Two and 2. 1 double crochet in the next 2 stitches, and then 2 double crochets in the next stitch. I've completed the 4th row, stitching 2 individual double crochets and then 2 double crochets together in the next stitch, and you'll have 40 double crochets for row 4. Now I didn't chain 3 because I am changing colors. If you're not changing colors, go ahead and chain 3. What I'm going to be doing is bringing my purple back in. So I'm going to grab my purple and bring it back in. I'll snug my pink one down, making sure I'm not pulling too tightly here, because we still want it to have a little bit of give. And then I'll chain 3. Alrighty. Now, I am still leaving my pink yarn attached because I'm going to be bringing it back in later. And that's how we trail it across, just like that. Not too tight, not too loose, just perfect. All right, now for row 5, we're going to again stitch our first double crochet in the same stitch as our chain 3. And then we're going to stitch 3 double crochets, 1 in each of the next 3. And then we'll stitch 2 double crochets together. And I think you can see a pattern emerging. As we increase on each row, we have 1 more double crochet between our 2 double crochets together. And so for row 5, the repeat is 1 double crochet in the next 3 double crochets, and then 2 double crochets together. And that's our repeat for row 5. 1 double crochet in the next 3 and then 2 together. We'll repeat this all the way around for row 5 and join to the top of our chain 3. I've completed my row 5, and row 5 should have 50 double crochets. And so now we're going to do row 6. And row 6 is similar, of course. We're going to put a double crochet in the same stitch as our chain 3. So 1 double crochet in each of the next 4 double crochets. Alrighty, now there's our 4 double crochets. Then we'll stitch our 2 double crochets in the same stitch. And that's how the repeat for row 6 will be. 1 double crochet in the next 4 double crochets. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we'll stitch 2 double crochets in the next stitch. And that's our repeat for row 6. 4 double crochets, 1 in each of the next 4, and then 2 double crochets in the same stitch. Repeat all the way around our row and join to our chain 3. I've completed row 6, and on row 6 you should have 60 double crochets. Alright, now I didn't chain 3 because I'm changing back to my pink. If you're staying the same color, go ahead and make your chain 3. But since I'm bringing my pink back in, I'm going to bring it in first and then do my chain 3. Now I want to show you the back so you can see where I'm carrying my yarn across, and you'll notice it's just a little bit loose, and that's so as the dog or cat or animal or child is moving around on your poof, it's not going to pull on those stitches. Alright, now for row 7 we're again going to place a double crochet in the same stitch as our chain 3. And then instead of having 4 individual double crochets, we're going to have 5. go. Although this is a center pole skein, it doesn't come out real smooth, of course, because of the fuzziness. And then after we've stitched those 5 individual double crochets, we'll stitch 2 double crochets in the next stitch. All right, so this is basically the way, of course, row 7 works. 5 individuals and then 2 together, repeat all the way around. And this is what you'll do for the next 6 rows. And each row you will increase by 1 more double crochet between your 2 double crochets in the same stitch. For row 7, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then on row 8, we'll have 6. Row 9, we'll have 7. Row 10, 8. Row 11, 9. And then row 12, you'll have 10 individual double crochets in between your 2 double crochets in the same stitch. And that just gives you a gradual increase for your poof. And 12 rows is how many I stitched to make the poof for my dogs. That's approximately 24 inches across. If you want to make it even bigger, you can continue with this pattern of adding 1 more individual double crochet between your 2 double crochets together. For example, if you want to do 13 rows, you'll have 11. If you want to do 14 rows, you'll have 12 individual double crochets between your V-stitch or your 2 double crochets together. It's not actually a V-stitch. So now I have both the front and the back, or the top and the bottom, of my poof made. And if you follow the pattern, you'll end up with 2 circles that are about 22 to 23 inches. The extra inch comes with the trim. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the bottom and then put the top on it. And you'll notice when I finished my last row, I did not tie off. I left it on there. That way we can just begin stitching around without having to add a new piece of yarn in. All right. And so what we're going to do is we're going to line this up, make sure your outsides are facing out and your insides are together. And I did want to show you this real quick. This is where we trailed those yarns across where we striped it. Now you won't have those if you did it all in a solid color, but I just wanted you to see that. Alrighty. Okay, so we've got it all lined up. And what we're going to do is we're just going to begin going through the stitch here. There we go. And a stitch across and stitch single crochets. Going through this side and going through this side. We're not going to add any stitches. We're not going to subtract any stitches. We're just going to stitch 1 single crochet in each stitch, going through the front and the back and stitching them together. And we'll do this all the way around until we have an opening that's about 8 or 10 inches. And the size of the opening really depends on the type of stuffing that you're going to put in your poof. If you're going to need a little bit more room for, say, a blanket or some old sweaters or t-shirts, you might want to leave yourself a little bit bigger of an opening. I'm just going to leave about a 10 to 12 inch opening because I'm just going to be putting regular stuffing inside mine. All right, so I'm just going to work my way around as soon as I get this knot out of my yarn. Working, lining everything up, stitching my front to my back with single crochet stitches. So I've stitched my poof all the way around except for this opening here. It's about 10-11 inches, and I'm just going to start grabbing handfuls of my stuffing and stuffing it inside. And again, the amount of stuffing you use is up to you, how tight you want your poof to be, how poofy you want it to be. The amount that I put in, the one for Maximo, which was the blue one, and what I'm going to do for this one is about 16 ounces of stuffing. And that's because I want it to be nice and poofy. And one thing to remember, if it's going to be used a lot, just like the pillow on your bed, it's going to squish down a lot. And so I'm adding a bunch of stuffing to mine. Make sure you get all the way around the edges. And then I'm going to put one more amount of stuffing right here at the opening. And you'll notice that I didn't cut my yarn again. I just left a big loop. I'm going to turn this around. There we go. And here's my opening. And I'm just going to finish single crocheting that closed. There we go. With single crochets, just like we were doing around the edges. And I'm very excited because I have enough left from all 4 of the skeins that I used to make these 2 puffs that I can make a blanket for the car. So be looking for a new dog blanket. I'm going to call it the take along, so that you can have a blanket that you can take along in the car that's not going to get too stinky. All right, so I'm just going to finish stitching up this opening. You can see I'm almost done. And then I want to show you a little technique to make the center of your poof kind of pooch in a little bit. If you want to, you don't have to do it that way. But I like to do it because I think it just helps it stay more sturdy. All right, let's look here, see where I'm at. Looks like just a couple more stitches there. There we go. And I'm just going to make a couple of slip stitches just so I moved past that opening. Cut that off. Just going to grab my needle. There we go. And I'm just going to go right down in some of those stitches and just weave that in, because I know my pooches are going to be jumping on these and jumping off of them, and I want that to stay put. And then the last thing I do is I just go down inside some of that stuffing and pull it out. All right, so that's the finished poof. But I want to show you one more thing you can do to make the center of your poof sort of stay down. If you want the center of your poof to kind of come in a little bit, I'll show you what I do. You'll notice this circle. I'll go to the side of that circle, and let me turn it over, and I'll do the same thing here. I'll come up, and I'll make sure my thread doesn't come all the way through, and then I'll go across that circle and come up on the other side. And I'll give that a little pull so that I don't have a lot of thread out. And then I'll give that a little bit of a knot. Now, a lot of people will want to put a button in the center, and I really don't recommend putting a button in the center just because it's something that the dogs can chew on. All right, so I'm going to do this one more time. Only I'm going to go, we came this way, so I'm going to go that way. It's a little harder now that we've pulled the center in to find that center. But basically, we're just making an X. Let me move this out of the way again. There we go. And we'll just come up the other side again. Whoops. Hit my light. All right. And then we're just going to make another little knot. There we go. And I like to tie this 3 times. 1, 2, and this is the third one. There we go. And then just clip those down in there close, being careful not to clip our poof. And that just makes a nice little place maybe for the kitty or the puppy to sit. All right. That's how you make our poofs. They're super fun, super clean. And be looking for the new dog blanket pattern called the Take Along.